Step into a journey where every step is packed with purpose, insight, and empowerment. This is Walk with Wisdom with your host, Genevieve Wisdom. Walk with Wisdom is a dynamic podcast series designed for men and women 40 and over who are ready to embrace their best years yet. Life at this stage isn't about slowing down. It's about leveling up. Each episode is a walkthrough guide to mastering life's transitions, rediscovering passions, and thriving physically, mentally, and emotionally. We bring you expert advice, real life stories, and actionable strategies to help you stride confidently into a future of vitality and fulfillment. So now, please welcome the host of Walk with Wisdom, Genevieve Wisdom.
Hi, everyone. I'm Genevieve Wisdom, and welcome back to Walk with Wisdom, a lifestyle show on youthful aging, which is looking good and feeling amazing as you age. And we do so with zest, zeal, vitality. Thank you again, everyone who's been with us on this walk from day one. Can you imagine we're on the 11th show? I am very, very grateful. And that being said, thank you for joining us live on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. Of course, hit the thumbs up, share with your friends and family and groups, anyone that you think might benefit from the information we're sharing here. Also, don't forget to connect with Bold Brave TV to know when the next shows are coming on. And another little preamble before we start, just reminding all of you that, we're sharing information, we're talking, we're having a walk, we're talking about things that are out there with incredible experts. However, if you're going to start any changes in your health, etc., talk to your primary care practitioner before you do so. Today is an awesome show. I have an incredible guest whom I've known for, my goodness, 25 years. And I am so grateful to bring on Dolores Bliss today. Um, Dan, can you cue up Dolores, please? Hi, Dolores.
Hi, Genevieve. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you for joining us today. So, without further ado, I'm going to tell everyone what you're going to be talking about today. And, it's really going to be meaningful. Bruce is also here. He'll join us at the end of the show to do a little wrap up, maybe a few last minute questions for you, Dolores. But to tell all our valued listeners and viewers, Dolores is going to be talking about endocrine disruptors, and it's going to be in a way which you've probably heard, but maybe not quite like this. And this lends to what Bruce and I have been talking about, which is menopause, the endocrine system, etc. So, Dolores, thank you again for your wisdom and for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
Perfect. So, everyone, without further ado, I need to read a little bio about Dolores. So, Dolores grew up the oldest girl in a family of nine children on a farm in northern BC. Her parents grew and raised most of what they ate, and she learned an appreciation for being self sufficient and living a healthy, natural lifestyle. She earned her teaching certificate from SFU in 1972. Dolores taught for a number of years in elementary school and took some time off to raise her three children. When she went back to work, she taught at the College of New Caledonia in Burns Lake. However, she found that her true interest was in herbs and natural products, so she bought a health food store in Burns Lake, which she owned and operated with her husband for almost 10 years. From there, they opened an organic cafe at SFU, which they also ran for 10 years. And that's where I met you, Dolores, and your amazing husband.
That's right.
Wow, almost 25 years ago. So, further to Dolores's bio, after retiring from the cafe, she had an online business called Natural Health and Wellness, where she helped busy people cook healthy meals. As well, she held online classes to teach people how The chemicals in their home and personal care products are harming their health. She offered them healthy home care and personal products through the business which she runs. She is in the process of adding to her business natural perfumes that have no artificial and synthetic scents in or other ingredients. She and her husband returned almost 4 years ago to live on the family farm that they grew up on, grow their own food. Dolores has discovered that many of the plants that grow on the farm can be used to make healing oils. She loves the quiet rural life, but works 2 days a week in her old health food store because she loves to help people with their health. Dolores, that's a mouthful. And everyone, that's just the tip of the iceberg as to who and what Dolores has done. But a lot of wisdom there, Dolores.
Thank you.
Of course, of course. So let me just jump into the questions because um I am just so excited and interested about this part of what we're doing on youthful aging. So, Dolores, we've talked about things here on the show, and you may have seen some of the past episodes. One of the reasons why I love the guests, including yourself, is despite your wealth of information and all the different things you've done, you have the ability and gift to take the complicated and make it simple. So let's talk about the endocrine system and what it does. Can you elucidate that, please? And Dan, you can bring up that slide, please.
Yes, certainly. The endocrine system, and this is just to keep it really simple because obviously it's a marvelous part of our body and does many things. But what it
Yes.
does, it's composed of these glands that are distributed throughout the body. So if you look at the diagram, you can see the hypothalamus, the pituitary, and those two are mainly involved in our reproductive system and therefore menopause, as well as the ovaries and the testicles in the males. So those are the three main ones that I'm going to talk about today. Um, what they do, these glands do, is they produce and release hormones into the bloodstream. And then these hormones are the chemical messengers that travel into our cells. So the body is very dependent on these hormones for a healthy endocrine system because it helps to control so many functions in the body, such as our
Right.
normal growth, coordination. It includes metabolism, fertility and reproduction, growth and development. It helps control our mood and the way our organs work. So these hormones are very important, but they're in extremely small amounts. Excuse me. And any a bit of a cold earlier. So any
Yes.
minor disruptions in those levels can cause significant differences or problems in our development and as well as our biological. So it has effects in all those areas. So the key glands that I mentioned that are involved with menopause is the first one is the pituitary gland.
Dan,
So
can you
this,
put that up again? Maybe we'll put up that little slide you had again
yeah,
and people can have
yeah,
a
then
little
people can see how
follow.
they're
Yes,
uh,
perfect. Yes. So the pituitary gland.
yeah, so the pituitary gland is the master gland, and that's located at the base of the brain. And this controls many of the endocrine glands. So it's kind of the controller, and it produces the follicle stimulating hormones, which are essential to regulate our menstrual cycle, our ovarian functions. And at the start of menopause, the the ovaries then are the ones that are the primary source of estrogen and progesterone. So at the beginning of menopause, the hypothalamus senses that there's a decrease in the estrogen and progesterone. So it releases a hormone. In response to this hormone, the pituitary gland releases a hormone. So what happens then is these hormones cause the eggs in the follicles start to decrease,
All
and then
right.
we get less of the hormones, the estrogen. So everything kind of gradually starts to decrease, and they're all interrelated. So that's the main. And then the pineal gland, it does release melatonin, which is very important for our sleep. So although it's not involved mainly in ovary function, all of that, it can influence, especially in men, can make a difference in the in their testicles. It affects the release of hormones for men. So as they age, it can cause problems with our sleep. So both
Right.
men and women. So that's because the melatonin is the hormone for sleep.
And thank you for mentioning that. I'm just going to jump in here for a sec, Dolores. And what we've talked about, and everyone, if you haven't seen the past episodes, please go back and look. We talked about nutraceuticals. When Bruce started with us, he talked about the gut and the liver. And I know, Dolores, you get how all that everything affects everything else. But melatonin, for instance, a lot of times people don't realize that a lot of the hormones we share them between men and women, and one of the major one is melatonin. And we're going to talk a little bit later about, as we age, what happens through menopause. And we talked about menopause, as I like to call it, or andropause, and just some
Hmm.
of the symptoms that are similar. So I'm glad you mentioned melatonin. We don't have the little slide up, Dolores, but keep going on the endocrine system, please.
Okay, so that's kind of the basically what I had to say about that.
Okay. So we can
About
move on
the
to
glands and what they produce and how that affects our menopause, menstruation, all of that.
fantastic. Well, then it's perfect timing for me because I had another question brewing. And my question was, what happens to make menopause so difficult for some women and andropause for some men? Now that you've explained the endocrine system as we get older, what happens?
Well, there are the natural aspects of menopause, but one of the factors they believe that has a big impact is endocrine disrupting chemicals. So, as I just mentioned, that's the endocrine system. So, chemicals can come in, and because the hormones are just in very tiny amounts, it doesn't take a lot of chemical to interrupt how they work. So, um, there's a study done by the National Institute of Health that shows that there is a link between menopause symptoms such as hot flashes, sleep disturbances, weight gain, and this because there's with the study that they did, they found that there were certain chemicals in the urine, and they believe that those chemicals affect the hormones. So if we're in an environment where there's a lot of hormones, I mean, sorry, chemicals, then we're having these hormones being affected.
Great. Now, we're talking about chemicals, and these are endocrine disrupting chemicals. Dolores, did you have a suggestion? And I'm probably going to jump around a bit here. Where do we find these chemicals? Can you give us just a couple of products that we may find these chemicals in?
Right. Well, chemicals are used in most of the products that we're using in our home. So everything that we're using for cleaning, personal care, things we're putting on our body, the things we're using to scent the air, those have chemicals. And there's a certain type of chemical that is used for creating the scent that's in there. And I'll explain that in a little more detail here in a moment. So, those chemicals are in our homes, in our products. We're putting them on our bodies. We're um, breathing them. We're drinking water that has chemicals. Foods that we eat have chemicals, right?
Wow. Okay. No, I understand. So thank you. So that's how we encounter these chemicals. They're coming in all these different places, places that we may not have thought of. So it's just in our environment in general, but certainly on the products that we're using. So my question is, are these chemicals listed on ingredient labels?
No, and the reason they're not listed is they're considered trade secrets. So there's this whole range of chemicals that manufacturers can use to create their scents, right? Whatever scent they want in their product. And we know that all the products we buy have scent, right? Your dish soap
Yeah.
has scent. Your laundry soap has scent. Your dryer sheets have scent. Your sprays, room scenty, they're all scent, right? Well, they all come under the proprietary Secrets Act, where they don't actually have to tell you what's there because that's their
Wow.
secret formula. And they
Hmm.
have an option of using over around 3,000 different chemicals that can be used to make their own scent. So that's their proprietary secret. So they're by law, they don't have to list them. So
Right,
so that
right.
we're having them not realizing that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that. And everyone, something else you know about me. And by the way, as we mentioned, we're sharing information. This stuff is out there. And so we're just talking here about what's going on. If you want to look further, you can just Google these things. But here's something
Yep,
about
exactly.
scents that I can't even believe that I have been exposed to it so much, not really realizing that it could be causing an effect because everyone has known about what I'm going through with that stage. Getting a hot flash right now. So my mom was a housekeeper and a nanny and fell in love with where we live right now on the beautiful wet coast, as we like to call it. She loved the trees and the rain. And this woman loved her chemicals. And she loved to make the houses smell so absolutely beautiful. So I grew up with all these scents, and I started to like, when you're spraying down, you're doing your housekeeping. I'm not going to call any names, but you spray all your air fresheners and all of that. And now, as I got older and did my research, I find out that a lot of these chemicals, of course, they go into your body. And everyone, we talked about xenoestrogens, and maybe Bruce, when he does the breakdown, we can talk about xenoestrogens in the last part of the show, because that's exactly what you're tying together for us, Dolores, is those
Mhm.
chemicals form different kinds of things that affect our hormones, including different types of hormones. And this causes problems with these symptoms that we get as we get older, going through menopause and menopause. Is that just a general way of me defining some of that?
Yes, because these chemicals can mimic our hormones. So our cells have receptors for our hormones, and they are close enough and they can block that receptor site so the actual real hormone can't get in there. So it interrupts the whole function because the body's not getting the hormones that it needs because these chemicals are getting in the way. They're blocking those sites. So
Right.
they
No.
mimic and they block or interrupt, causing problems with how our endocrine system is working.
Right. Now I have a question. Um, why don't the manufacturers then just use natural scents?
Well,
In
natural scents come from
your
plants,
opinion.
right?
Yes, exactly. In your opinion.
So plants, of course, um, they're not consistent, right? So growing seasons, where it's grown, soil, weather, all of that affects the consistency of the oils in the plants. Well, they want consistency. They're cheaper.
Right.
They can get more of the product, it's made so they can get that, more of that. And so it's just cheaper to use the chemicals. And plus, they can create their own scents. So there's a whole variety of, you think about perfumes. I used to love some of them, and I loved the scent until I discovered that they were chemicals. But
Right.
they were all individual. They were different, and so manufacturers can make their own blend, what they're known
Right.
for. uh,
Right, of
because they mix
course.
their chemicals all in, and they've got 3,000 to choose from. So there's a wide variety of scents that one can make with that, right?
Absolutely. No,
Yeah.
that totally makes sense. Now, when we're talking about chemicals, so it's found in perfumes, but it's
Mhm.
not only in perfumes. Were you saying just everyday household things? We just have to look at the scent. So anything that probably has a nice smelling scent, that's
Yes,
some kind of a chemical, right?
it's synthetic. Yes.
Because we're just talking here, can we go through a list, you and I, of things that we use every day that might have,
I
a scent?
sure can.
Yes.
One thing, it's in plastics. One of the main ones called phthalates, they're in plastic. So they're in everything. They're in like toys, the vinyl floor covers, wall coverings, pharmaceuticals, but all our personal care products, so nail polish, hairspray, cleansers, makeup, cosmetics, but in men's products as well. So in aftershave, they're in soaps. Um, so it's like a huge number of things that they're in, and where you find them in there is under the word fragrance. So they don't tell you that there you're there, but the key word is fragrance. Fragrance is a cover up for all these chemicals because they don't have to list them. So they just have to say fragrance. So when
Okay.
you look through your list of things like your products that you have, way down, usually kind of hidden, kind of in the middle, it's there. Takes a bit to find it, but you'll find fragrance, and then you know that there's chemicals in there.
Wow, wow. That is really interesting. I'm going to go back to something you said. Now, you mentioned that it's in plastics. Now, are you talking about a plastic container that doesn't
Yeah.
have a smell, but in the plastic itself
Yes.
are
Yeah.
chemicals that can be endocrine disruptors?
Yep. Yep. So
Perfect.
it's far better to store your food in glass,
Okay. All right.
glass
And
containers.
okay, and why is that? Does the chemical come out of the
Well, the
plastic?
chemicals can leak out into the food. I mean, some of the containers are supposedly safer, but they're still plastic. So
Right.
undoubtedly, I mean, I'm suspicious, right? So there's probably some leaching. So I just use glass containers to store my food in for that reason.
Right, right. Oh my goodness. Well, that's really, really interesting and something that I'll share with everyone as well. By the way, everyone, remember if you're enjoying what we're talking about, taking the complicated, you may have heard of chemicals. Well, what is it? And Dolores is here breaking it down for us today about fragrances and just, in general, if you're going to have certain plastics with your food, just consider that the chemical in it might leach out. So
Mhm.
something simple
Yep,
like switch to glass.
particularly if you put it in the microwave, right?
Of course, because
Mhm.
it's cooking it in. Is that why?
Well, it releases it, the heat.
Of course,
Mhm.
of
Or
course.
the yeah.
So absolutely. So everyone, if you want to talk to us further, you can contact me directly at wisdom at walkwithwisdom.ca is the email. Wisdom at walkwithwisdom.ca. Dolores is also available. She has coached and counseled, and we're going to talk about what she's doing now. And she's given us her email as well, which is, if you're watching, you can see it, but it's dstornessbliss at gmail.com. And we'll put it in the chat for you. So it's dstornessbliss at gmail.com. But to make it simpler, you can always email me and I will be happy to pass on her information. Now, we're coming up. It's time for us to take a little break to hear from our sponsors. Dolores, you have gotten me excited to talk about what we can do about all of this. And we will be right back. Hi, everyone. I'm Genevieve Wisdom. Welcome back to Walk with Wisdom. It's a lifestyle show on youthful aging, which is looking good and feeling amazing as you age. We have Dolores Bliss here today, and she's talking about how environmental things can affect us as we age, as we get younger, as I like to call it. And speaking about getting younger, we have the amazing Bruce Pollock who's back joining us because Dolores, I don't know if you're aware, and for all our viewers out there, Bruce was my first guest, and I have also known Bruce, not unlike yourself, for a couple of decades. And Bruce has that gift: take the complicated, make it simple. We had that balance of male and female, which I didn't want to leave the men out as we got younger. And everyone asked for Bruce to come back. So here the three of us are, and we're going to have a little discussion. Now, this is the part where when Bruce comes in, he basically summarizes what you've said, Dolores. So we're going to give Bruce a moment to just kind of go over what you said and see if he has any questions at the end of it. Hi, Bruce. How you doing? You look younger.
Hey, thank you, Genevieve. I'm feeling younger.
You're you're
So,
welcome. Awesome.
I found it interesting when you started talking about the hormones being blocked by these chemicals or these xenoestrogens, and I think if you look at that in a different way, you could say it's you've just got this little area where this chemical where the hormone can absorb, and if there's something laying over top of it, as again a plug in a sink, so nothing can get past that. That means the
Right.
hormone can't get in there. That's what you're saying, right? So
Absolutely.
the hormone's actually being blocked from getting to where it needs to go because of these other chemicals that are in our system. And
Hmm.
this is what you refer to as endocrine disruptors, because they're disrupting the endocrine system from working the way it should because the hormones aren't getting to where they need to be. Does that is
That's
that a summary of it?
that's right.
Okay,
Yep, exactly.
perfect. So I have a question. It was very interesting, by the way. Um, I really appreciated the 3,000. I didn't know there's 3,000 different chemicals they add. They can make a combination to make a smell, a taste, a flavor.
Well, there
But
could
I
even be
found it,
more. Who knows the number? But
yeah, it's a good number.
It's
It
going to be
gives us
more
a
than
ballpark, you know.
yeah, there's
But
lots.
my question
yes.
is I go shopping, I look on the back of something, and it says natural flavor or natural fragrance. Does that have a legal meaning to it?
It's basically they don't have to actually reveal what's there because of that law that allows them to. It's their trade secret, so they just give like a cover word, and it's you don't really know what's in there, but you can suspect because they're not telling you that it's likely a chemical.
So because it says natural, it doesn't really mean anything, and there's nobody holding this person to say natural has to grow out of the ground. It's just a
Right.
word they use to describe
Mhm.
their flavor, their scent.
Exactly.
Because
Exactly.
that's interesting because I've had friends say to me, but it's natural flavor or it's natural scent. And what we're saying now is that means nothing in a legal manner.
Exactly. And you get what they call as greenwashing. You get products that advertise themselves as being natural, but they still have like fragrance or, like you saying, natural on there. And that's really just a cover up, which they're allowed legally to use to cover up that there's chemicals there that they don't have to divulge.
So to go a step further, if you don't want these things in it, you have to start looking for organic. Is that the idea? You have to look for organic
Well,
cleaners?
yeah,
No?
that as well as a company that divulges what they're using. Like if they're using plant natural scents, they'll list. So it'll be like the essential oils. They say lavender
Mm.
essential oil, citrus, eucalyptus, peppermint. So they're actually telling you what it is. And when you get a product that is um, open and uh, responsible, not trying to hide things, they'll list them all there. And you can have a huge list, but they'll all be listed there. And you'll know,
Right,
oh, clove oil. Well, I know what cloves are. So I get it, right?
right, right.
Absolutely. I
Mhm.
have a question, and I've said when we started the show, and again, thank you everyone. There are lots of comments going on. Please continue to comment. I saw someone here saying, "Yeah, I heard that about the natural," and thank you for explaining that. We just dig a little bit deeper. So what I said in the nexus of the show was I have wise people that have taught me to give me my wisdom, and often a wise man is sometimes a wise woman. In this case, it was a wise man who once said that there's something called schools of thought. And there is one school of thought that says that, okay, we can go down a little bit of digging, trying to figure out how natural a product is on one end, or we can take what the companies are saying because we live where we live as truth. Dolores, I'm going to ask you this again, and I think Bruce started, and I'm just going to continue on that. So, are you saying then that there are home care products that we can get that have essential oils in it? Because I love essential oils. Bruce,
Yes.
I love essential oils.
Absolutely.
And I'm,
Yeah, me too.
yeah, absolutely. And so, are you saying then that there are products out there that we can get?
Yes, there are. And they do guarantee that they are not using any toxic chemicals, that they are using essential oils. And you're getting the scent, the real scent from the plant. It's not made up, it's not a chemical scent. So you're not going to get the effects on your endocrine system that you're getting from the chemicals.
Right. No, that's excellent. Bruce, did you have any questions or comments here? Yeah.
I did. The other thing you were asking, why do they use chemicals instead of plants? Even if they wanted to use plants, there's not enough plants in this earth to perfume all the bottles of stuff that we buy. If you
Did,
if you walk if you walk through aisles and aisles and aisles of these different massive box stores, it would be, yeah, it would be and I really appreciate as well consistency. If you're buying, I'm a supplement guy. If you're buying organic supplements, they can look different every time you buy them, just
Yep.
because the plants are slightly
The
different. I
patch.
mean, it's the same plant, but it
Mhm.
just, as you say, it rained
Yes.
more this year, right? So it's
Yes.
it's
Right,
very difficult to and people come back and say it doesn't look like it did last time. And I say, well, it's an organic thing. It can't look the same. That's
Yes.
the whole basis of being organic, right? So a lot of good points about why they use the chemicals, and and if you have a bad year, you have no plants to use. If you had
right.
floods that year, so a lot of interesting points you brought up, Dolores.
Well, an
Absolutely.
interesting thing that when you said that about there's not enough plants, in actual fact, there's more products claiming to have lavender scent than is lavender to even provide it. So you can't even get enough lavender to provide all the
Wow.
scent that's being claimed out there. So good point. Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's man-made, right?
Yeah,
Um,
sometimes.
Absolutely. So, Dolores, by the way, and everyone, wisdom at walkwithwisdom.ca, wisdom at walkwithwisdom.ca. That's where you can get a hold of Bruce and I. We do one on one coaching. We're happy to do complimentary coaching on any of these products. A lot of people have been following the show, Bruce, who are in the menopause stage. But here's what's really interesting, and Dolores, which I am so excited to see, we have a lot of younger followers that are looking as to what they can do before. And I think it started when Bruce talked about menopause, about all these chemicals that now we're realizing that's coming in. You take care of your gut, you take care of your liver, you go to the bathroom, it all helps all those symptoms dissipate or at least be less later on in life. At least that's our hope. So we have a lot of
Hmm.
younger generation watching and learning from us to have an easier time. Dolores, question on this, and then maybe Bruce can jump in as well. How do we take charge of our health in this scenario? What are one or two things that we can do to decrease the chemical load?
Well, you can actually take charge. I mean, there's a lot of things we have no control over. Like we can't control
Sure.
what's happening out in the environment. But there was a study that showed the home environment is actually 3 to 5 times more polluted than the outside environment, and that's because the products we're using. So
Yeah.
you're actually in charge of what you buy, right? So you don't have to buy products with chemicals. You don't have to bring those into your home. You can take charge of that. So it might take a little bit of researching, but these products are there, they're available. And the biggest thing you can do is stop buying them.
Well, of course,
So
Bruce. Any comments on
I
that? Or
yeah, I want to go a little more. I want to go a little further. Um, Years ago, years and years ago, I was using a deodorant and I switched to their sport deodorant, and my whole arm started burning and went bright red. And after that, I've never used a non-natural deodorant since. And just start small. If you're trying to just move into
Mhm.
a healthier lifestyle, start small. Start with deodorant. There's lots of
Yep.
good natural deodorants. Now, with a natural deodorant, you have to switch it up every 6 months or so because the things that smell mutate and the deodorant will stop working. So you need to switch it up every once in a while. But still, dish soap, hand soap, the clothes soap. And if you want your house to smell nice, get an essential oil. What are they called? Where
Diffuser.
you put this in? Yeah, it's get essential oil diffuser. My wife has one going all the time in our house. It smells wonderful. And just with those five things, the deodorant, the soap you use on your body, the clothes soap, the dish soap, and the essential oil diffuser, you've changed you've taken hundreds of chemicals out of your home and off your body. So it's very simple. Start small. Just start with a few things and keep adding to it.
Right. That's
absolutely.
really the best way because they're expensive. You don't want to throw out what you have, but you just gradually make the changes and gradually improve the environment in your home and on
Mhm.
your body. And I would start with my body because that's absorbing directly in. So good point
Absolutely.
there.
Absolutely. Now, Dolores, and if you could please just put up Dolores's contact. Dolores is available, everyone, and that's what I really love about my incredible guests who have come on. Um, Dolores is available for consulting, etc. So her email address will be posted momentarily, and if not now, after the next break. Here it is, like magic. I did that. So it's D Storness Bliss, DStorness at gmail.com. And if you're listening and you didn't get that, email wisdom at walkwithwisdom.ca. Wisdom at walkwithwisdom.ca. Dolores, I have to put you on the spot here for a moment. And so, Bruce and I mentioned to Bruce that I love essential oils. His wife does. She has a diffuser going. Dolores, can we talk essential oils? Just an intro, and when we come back, I would love for you to talk about a product that you have found, and so we can actually point people somewhere, have it a little bit more pinpointed for our listeners and viewers, just so because you can Google, so many things come up. So, essential oils, Dolores, I learned about phenomenal essential oils from you. Can you, in 30 seconds, we have about 30 seconds right now before we go on a break, is there such a thing as organic versus non organic essential oils?
Yes, there is. And the thing about essential oils, that's such a good point. They're not regulated. So there's all kinds of cheaper versions of essential oil. So you do want to be careful. You want to get the organic. And the ones that I'm using come from a company that actually grow their own. So they control the whole process from the seed to the seal, and everything is done organically. And all sorts of testing and standards. It's amazing. And so yes, that's so important is to get the quality.
Fantastic. Everyone, we're going to take a break for our valued sponsors. We will be right back. Hi, everyone. I'm Genevieve Wisdom, and welcome back to Walk with Wisdom, a lifestyle show on youthful aging. Today's show has been exciting. It's really put together things that I know you've all heard of about our endocrine system, why it's important to consider what we're putting on our body, in our environment, because how it can affect us and those symptoms that we go through in menopause and andropause or menopause, as I like to call it, or before. Dolores, thank you so much for being with us. Bruce, you're incredible at putting everything together, taking the complicated, making it simple. Did you have any further questions for Dolores? To leave some
I just
tips
have one.
for viewers? Yes, please
I
go
have
ahead,
one.
Bruce.
So we've been talking about essential oils, and we know they come from plants, but exactly what is an essential oil?
The essential oil is really the life force of the plant. So in every plant, there's these oils, and it's how they're extracted that makes a huge difference. So they can be extracted with chemicals, hexanes, or which is putting more chemical into the plant, or they can be done in a very gentle steam distilled way, and that pulls out this life force of the plant. Really, it's in the oil, and then we get the benefits of the oils. They actually go through our body, and they go into the areas that are needed for healing and for change. So not only are they good in scent for the products we use, we can use them for actual healing purposes.
So they're actually the oils within the plants that are removed to make an essential oil. And can you put it directly on your skin, or does it need to be watered down?
Some of them are, if you're sensitive, you can put them on your skin. Uh, for sensitive skin, we usually recommend putting them with a carrier oil. And actually, the carrier oil does allow them to stay longer on the skin, so it is actually recommended. But I use a lot of them. I never do use the carrier oil. So,
And quickly, one
things
last thing. I know we're running out of
like
time. What carrier oil do you recommend?
there's different ones. I use like jojoba. You can use grapeseed. You can use avocado. You can use olive oil. So any healthy oil could be used as a carrier oil.
Perfect. Back
Yeah,
to you, Jen.
thank you, Bruce. That was so awesome and very well uh said. And the questions you asked, I use coconut oil because Bruce, and one day we'll tell everyone about our connection or background or bloodline connection. They're gonna think we're brother and sister. We'll talk about that later. But where I'm from, we use coconut oil as a carrier oil for everything. So what I'll do,
Right.
Dolores, take a tablespoon of coconut oil, douse it with the organic essential oil, and put it hair, skin, everywhere. Absolutely.
Mhm.
And sometimes I even cook with them. So we can talk about that another time. Again, everyone, thank you so much for joining in. If you want to talk to Dolores further, you can email her directly at dstornesbliss@gmail.com or wisdom at walkwithwisdom.ca. There you can also have Bruce and I. We're available for complimentary coaching so that you get to know us. This is what we do. Dolores, I know you're familiar with this as well with your health food store. We help so many people who come in a health food store capacity, in a natural health food environment, in an integrative pharmacy environment, and they need help with their skin, their gut, all the things that we've talked about. So we're more than happy to help and capable to do so. Of course, check with your primary care practitioner before you change anything major in your healthcare regimen. Now, this leads us into something that is coming up on our show next week. And both Bruce and Dolores have heard me talk about it, and a lot of my valued guests, friends, family, and I think the audience now. I have a line of organic skincare. And Dolores, I'm so glad that you mentioned the difference between organic versus non organic. And it's called Revive 25. It's revive25skincare.com. And a lot of the essential oils that are put into skincare products aren't real. And Bruce and Dolores, we've just talked about the chemicals and how they're endocrine disruptors. And so maybe Dolores, if you can talk a quick second, and then I'll have Bruce just talk again about maybe xenoestrogen. Just mention that word because we can talk about that further next week. But having organic essential oils in the skincare, what's the value of that versus just regular, like you mentioned, there are all these lavender scents and not enough lavender to make that much lavender.
Right. Well, one of the things with organic is you're not going to be getting the pesticides. And
Oh, no.
pesticides is a great example of a chemical that can interrupt your endocrine system. But you're also getting the soil is not fertilized with synthetic fertilizers. So you're getting natural food so that the plants are actually growing naturally, drawing the nutrients that they need out of the soil, and therefore the quality is that much better.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Bruce, anything you want to add there?
I did. I just wanted to recap what Dolores said about how they're made. The less expensive
Yes.
uh, essential oils, they actually use chemicals to pull the oils out. Now,
Yeah.
it seems backwards to do that, but you're actually getting more chemicals when you're using a poor quality essential oil. And there's organic essential oils available in almost every vitamin store. It's worth going in, spending extra money to get those as opposed to going to a big box store and spending very little to get an essential oil. They won't be organic, they won't be a good quality. Remember, xenoestrogens are estrogens that come from outside of the body and go in. They're not natural inside. We don't want to add to that when we're trying to remove them. So get a good quality essential oil when you're going to go get one. It's worth the money.
Excellent, excellent. And again,
Yes.
everyone, this platform on youthful aging, we talk about health and beauty from the outside in. And you both know that when I was much younger, taller, and thinner, I was in fashion. And that's why skincare is so important to me. By the way, both your skin look fantastic. And that's one of the things, Bruce. When I met Dolores, she has this amazing skin. I won't tell everyone how many decades young you are, Dolores, but everyone
Okay.
would be absolutely surprised. Dolores has practiced and is practicing what she preaches. And really, that's one of the motivation. When I found out what was in our skincare, what I was eating through my skin, the xenoestrogens, and now coming up to menopause, I had to do something. So thank you all again for coming. We're talking about health and beauty from the outside in. There is a link on when you email wisdom@walkwithwisdom.ca for the nutraceuticals that Bruce and I have talked about. We've had Cytomatrix and DFH come on. That supports everything that Dolores has talked about. It helps the liver to take out these xenoestrogens. Bruce and I are going to actually start doing a little bit more training for everyone, Bruce, because everyone is asking about how we can cleanse the liver, etc. Just little 10-minute tips. We're going to start to do that in the next week or two, everyone. So look out for that. Until then, I want to thank you all for coming. Look out for Revive 25 Skincare. We're going to talk about that next week. It's Interview the Interviewer Week. And thank you, Bruce. Any last minute things you want to say to Dolores? We have about 30 seconds to wrap.
No, just thanks for your time. It was very, very interesting. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Bruce.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Dolores, thank you. You look amazing. We've learned a lot. Everyone, dstorenessbliss@gmail.com or wisdom@walkwithwisdom.ca. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciated it.
This has been Walk with Wisdom with host Genevieve Wisdom. Tune in each week as Genevieve will present powerful guests who'll inspire you to make every step count. Whether you're walking your dog, tackling your morning run, or enjoying a quiet moment with your headphones, Walk with Wisdom is your companion for redefining what it means to age powerfully and intentionally. Fridays, 4 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network, powered by B2 Studios. Take the first step with us, because wisdom isn't about what you've left behind. It's about everything that lies ahead.